everything that she did at the beginning was to establish it as this is a formal, serious, important thing for everybody. And Latin is the center of it.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Oh, am I messed up? I've been moving. I've been moving.
Got it.
I should have looked at myself.
Tell us if we need to fix ourselves at all.
Thank you, Jessica. I would have done the entire podcast with my hair
Wild
askew.
hair.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Aboud, and I am here with Tanya Charlton and returning guest, Mrs. Kathy Becker.
And no Martin Cawthorn because he didn't show up.
I know.
He's
But
MIA.
He is, but I think we can make up for it, the three of us.
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
we
we
can.
can.
Fine.
Yes.
Yes,
Who needs them?
that's right. Especially with Kathy. Kathy, it's always a joy to have you on. You're in town this week, and
Yes.
you lead our schools division brilliantly, I might add. You always come to mind. Your division grows. I think like every week I hear about something happening, a new person on your team, a new school you're starting. You're a busy lady. So we appreciate your time.
Well, it's great to be here. And actually, yes, we are always growing. One thing we can always say about Memoria Press, it is growing.
That's right.
All the time.
That's right.
Yes.
You're seeing schools pop up all over the country.
All over the country. And just this week, I'm here after visiting a special needs school in South Carolina. So lots going on with Memoria Press and the schools division.
Yes. Well, in the midst of that, thank you for carving out some time.
Yes.
Glad to have you. Today, we are going to hear what everybody's reading, and then we're going to talk about school ceremonies because graduation time is here. And we're going to discuss why traditions matter and how those affect school culture. I think this is going to be a fun and timely conversation. So, first, what are we reading?
The same thing I've been reading.
Which is?
I can't finish Name of the Rose.
Oh,
I just keep reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished the third Mick Herron spy novel. But then this morning I started this book. I don't know if you guys have read it or not. It's called Bloomsbury. I'm sorry. Bloomsbury Girls, I think is the name of it.
Okay.
And she wrote the Jane Austen Society book, which I haven't read.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, it's okay so far. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw it in a bookstore and thought, oh, that looks good. It's about a bookstore being saved by women after World War II. So it sounded really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it just reads very modern, even though it's 1950. I don't know. There's just something about like reading Chesterton and then you pick up something really modern and
There's a
it's
difference.
just easier, much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe just entertainment reading.
And squeaking in the Name of the Rose when
Well,
you're up for
right.
it.
I am definitely trying to finish that again, but I've read it before, so it's my second time through, but I needed the refresher.
Yeah. So this book, I love Chesterton. And if someone knows me, they know that I love him. And I have so many books about him. And everyone wants to write about him. You know, C.S. Lewis says everyone would rather read a book about Plato than read Plato. So I was at a conference and I was at Eighth Day Books, of course, because that's where we spend our money.
Yes.
And I saw this. This is his autobiography. And I said to myself, I need to read his words about himself. And the thing about loving a person so much and his whole character, he's gentle, he's sweet, his mind is so big and so broad and so wonderful. And he's written so many wonderful things. I was almost afraid to step into an autobiography because you don't want to be disappointed in the person that you think he is, right? But he is delightful. He is, I would say anyone should read this book. He makes me chuckle. He has a great, he's just the sweetest person. Is it
written with humor?
It is. Oh, he cannot write without humor. And he is just lovely. You know, he says he's the most magnanimous person because when he was a very large man, over 300 pounds and very tall. And he said when he stood up on the bus and gave up his seat, he gave up 3 seats. So, I mean, that is a picture of Chesterton.
He was self-aware.
He was so humble, so self-deprecating, so wise.
Yeah.
And so this has been a treat.
Maybe I should do that before I try orthodoxy again.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I just have not, I've failed on orthodoxy and I've got to go back and try it again.
I feel like if you know him,
it'll make a
then
difference.
everything else makes so much more sense.
I think that's true. Okay. I'll add that to my list. Chesterton autobiography.
And I usually don't share what I'm reading. I don't know. I usually forget because I'm so
Well,
what
we
everybody's
talk
doing.
so much.
I know.
How do you get it in?
I do have a couple books going, and it's on my list. I passed you my book club, my personal book club
did.
book.
I have not read it.
What's her name?
I don't. Oh, Trollope.
Yeah, the Fanny Trollope book.
Which I had recently read that his mom, that Anthony Trollope's mom was an author.
Did you?
And so I don't know where I saw that, but it was a shock to me. I had no idea. I mean, I knew all about, he worked for the post office and he would write like 1,500 words every morning before he went to work. And, he was so prolific. His books are this big and there's 1 million of them. No idea that his mom wrote. So I haven't read it.
My book club did it 2 months ago, I think. And she wrote it. She lived in Louisville for a while. So Louisville's in that book. Anyway, you'll have to tell me what you think.
I will.
Yeah. I'm reading a couple fiction books. I read late at night now. And so I don't want anything too heavy. So I might put this one down. But I started The Island of Sea Women.
I don't know what that is.
It's really, I think it's won some awards. It is historical fiction about some Korean women who they were divers for like sea anemone to keep the economy going during the occupation when Japan occupied. Yeah, it's really, but it's so sad that I don't know if it's good nighttime reading for me, but the story is really gripping. And I think they also made a documentary, which of course wouldn't be fiction. It doesn't have the same title, but it's supposed to be like a really moving story.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if I can do it at night.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm reading. I'm also reading. There's this sweet little book called The Carnegie Maid, and it's a story about.
Oh, I've seen that.
It's so good.
Is it?
Well, it's just lighthearted and it's modern fluff. But if you just want to read something at night to kind of, get you into like a calm mode, I'm enjoying it.
That's the kind of stuff I have to read in the summer because summers I just come out of summer days exhausted and just have to have fluff.
Kind of like rinse your brain out.
Yes. I don't have any brain cells left.
I don't either. And
but, by the time we try to figure out how we're going to get everything shipped and
yes, that's right.
When schools are starting and when they need their books and do they need a lift gate?
Well, moving right along, school ceremonies. From commencements to assemblies to small daily rituals, our traditions matter and they help us form a culture. So that's what we're going to discuss. And I think my first question for you is, what is your favorite ceremony of the year?
Wow, what a question. I think probably for me, the one ceremony that I think really shows the culmination. I like the spring recitation ceremony because it shows what they've learned during the year. But the wonderful thing about that ceremony is you have parents there who are observing and the children are swelling with pride as they recite and they love it. And the parents are swelling with pride as they watch them. They love their children. It's a beautiful thing. It's just beautiful.
What do they recite?
So they're reciting their regular recitation or poems, scripture, all of these things. I mean, you could look at every subject and there could be something to recite, right? Right. Every subject, nature studies, whatever. But just seeing that they are owning that, they have learned that, and people who criticize rote memorization need to be there for one of these ceremonies.
An accomplishment.
As they see those children love to recite. And the wonderful thing is all of those things that are stored in their minds will be there when they are 40 and 50 and 60. They will still be there. We all remember the scripture and the poems we memorized as children, right? And so and you want to say to a teacher, everything you're pouring into that child, you are affecting their life for the rest of their life. So, you see that in a recitation program. It's lovely.
Beautiful. It's like a thread in the fabric of their minds that you're laying.
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, when I think about the teachers of my childhood and the poems that I memorized, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, or, different poems, they stay with you. And so you want to say to that teacher in the classroom, oh, you are powerful in that classroom. You are affecting this child's life forever. And that's such a big responsibility, but it's such a privilege too, right? So recitation program, it's great. It shows all of that.
Oh, how about you, Tanya?
It's a toss-up for me between the Christmas cantata, which I just absolutely love. I went to the first one because I was teaching, the very first one we ever had, and it was just amazing. And we've done the exact same program every year since, and it's really become a community event for the city because it is so impressive. And that is all literally due to Louis Bailey, our director, who has directed it from the very beginning. And it's based on the King's College Choir. And so I love that. It's a really special time during Advent. And it's also the end of that's the last day of school.
Yeah, there's a
before
huge
the
build
Christmas
up.
break.
Everybody's
Everybody's
tickets.
so excited.
Yeah.
But then I really love the opening school ceremony because I, again, was at the first one. And from the very beginning, we didn't have very many students at all. And Cheryl still started it with a bagpiper and a drummer who march in, and then the students march in with them and the teachers. And then she would give a charge to the students, to the teachers, to the parents. And then each class would be dismissed to their classroom with their teacher. And that's just a really special, it's not a very long service at all, but it just starts the school year in a formal way, which that was her intention, was that this is your job, students, and this is the way you should conduct yourself in this school year. And this is a serious thing. And now teachers, we're turning over these students to you, and they are in your charge for 9 months now. And it's a big responsibility, but enjoy it. And then off we would go to our classroom for the very first time with our students.
With the bagpiper leading?
And no, the bagpiper and the drummer were finished by then. They would just march in with us.
Okay.
And so now, we're so big, we do it outside.
Right.
And it's very hot. But it's still, men in suits. And it's very formal. It's a very formal beginning of the school year.
Those are both perfect answers because they lead me to something I've had in my mind since I knew we were going to do this episode, because you mentioned recitation, you mentioned the Christmas cantata, and I could see some people saying, well, a recitation of a poem is nice and a pretty Christmas choir is nice, but are those ceremonies? What is your answer to that? Ceremonies go beyond just opening school and graduation. There are other things that we consider traditions that form the culture of the school. And we would even say, no, that's a ceremony. That's important.
Yes. Well, really, there are many, many more things. But for us, it is our tradition. And it was established. And even the recitation day used to be part of the closing school ceremony.
Did it?
Yes.
I didn't know
and
that.
we were so small, and the classes were, it wasn't individual. Like when my kids started coming, it was just really like a 2-room classroom that Cheryl would teach half the kids and Lee would teach the other half, and then they would flip for Latin and classical studies. But we still had this formal closing school ceremony, and she would have the kids stand up and recite all the Latin forms that they had learned. And it was very boring. But she was so proud, and they were so proud of everything that they knew. Yeah. And so that started 20 years ago. And now we had to separate it from the closing school ceremony because we are so large and it takes so much. A lot of schools can do it all still together, but we can't. And so the recitation day has still, it's retained its importance and its ceremony. but it really was part of the closing school ceremony originally when it first started, but we wouldn't give it it got so long.
Right.
When you've got 12 grades and everybody's reciting what they've learned through the year. So now they don't recite everything. They just recite, each grade recites 2 or 3 things because it would be just, I remember the last time it was like we were into the 3rd hour.
Oh my.
At night. And Cheryl was I can still see her sitting on that front pew with this beatific smile on her face, enjoying every second of those kids. I mean, really listening to them and being so proud of everything that they were doing. And everybody behind her was dying. Children were crying, and it was just miserable by then. And Brian went over and sat down beside her and said, Mom, it's been 2.5 hours. How much longer is this? And she just was like, oh. Like she had no idea that it had been so, because she was so...
I so relate to that. Because I remember being head of school in Arizona, and it was spring, and it was warm, and it was sunny, and I thought how great it would be to have our recitation. We were having a recitation program, and the students were going to compete against one another, the different grades. One would stand and recite, another would stand and recite. We had judges to judge the best recitation. And for me personally, I just thought, this is great. And they could have gone on for 2 hours.
Right.
But after an hour in the hot sun, it's like
everybody's ready to go.
But you yourself are like, oh, this is great. I love this. I could listen forever.
Because everyone else is just happen all
You've
year.
seen them go through it all, and you love it.
You do, and
then you just have to tell yourself, no, you need to end this.
That's funny. So Brian and Lee did take charge, and they did shorten it all. They separated it from the closing school ceremony because our graduation was the same day.
Oh.
But all of this was to build a school culture.
Right.
So this ceremony is important because it does build the culture of the school. So we have the formal opening school ceremony. We have we used to have a national Latin exam banquet because she was trying to build Latin as the culture of the school. Mm-hmm. Classical education. She was setting it apart from every other school. And this was really important. She worked really hard. Well, she put Latin in the school name. That was the first thing she did. But then when students took the national Latin exam, she would have a big cake that said, congratulations. And all the students and parents would come during, for an evening. And she would have students stand up and recite in Latin forms or whatever. Finally, one of them would actually recite a translation, which was beautiful. Mm-hmm. So you could see where it was going. But then every class she would give each student their certificate or their medal, and then they would stand and get a picture with her. Well, it took forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you just really wanted to see your student and go home. And so, but she did that for years because she was establishing Latin as the center of her school. Mm-hmm. And she did everything that she did at the beginning was to establish it as this is a formal, serious, important thing for everybody. And Latin is the center of it. Mm-hmm. And so when other schools, other companies said we're doing a classical education, but we're not doing Latin, for her, it was impossible to do a classical education without Latin, and it needed to be the center. So that was part of the formality and the building of that culture. So we don't have that banquet anymore. Everybody, it just takes for granted that our students are going to take the national Latin exam. They're going to get their medals and their certificates, and it's just part of what we do. But at the time, she was trying to show the parents and the teachers, this is important. And we're going to do this every year. It's not going to go by the wayside. Mm-hmm. So she did it as long as she had to. Mm-hmm. The opening school, the closing school, all of that still remains. The recitation day, all of those things remain because they do set the school year up to be a formal, serious occasion.
And I think that's the thing we need to think about. Why do we have ceremonies? Ceremonies make something important. Like tradition is in a way, tradition is the framework we hang our lives on. Those things that we do every year, we remember those things. So it's so important in a school to have ceremonies because it says, this is important. This is important to us. And we live in a society where traditions are thrown away. It's even more important that we have these ceremonies now than it ever has been.
It is. When you see how people dress for funerals now. Or for weddings. I mean, we don't have any kind of sense of gravitas over an occasion anymore in this country.
Point. The casual nature of...
That's right. And we just are making sure we're protecting that in our school. But homeschoolers do that. A lot of homeschool students are wearing uniforms. Why? Because it's more comfortable? No, because it sets a tone of seriousness for a job that everybody is needing to do that day. And I'd love to read the forum at the beginning of the year because they have, like the first day of school, we always go out to breakfast at this place. Like they're setting,
and that's their ceremony. That's their special thing.
It is saying this is the beginning of what we're going to be doing, and we celebrate that. And then they have things that they do at the end too. Some of them make a special chocolate chip cookie recipe for the beginning, the first day of school. Just things that set it apart as this is a new endeavor, and we're all in this together, and it's serious.
Kathy, do you have examples you can share of some of the schools you know of and some of the ceremonies that they do that are unique to them? Because you're right, you can really personalize it.
You can, absolutely.
Yeah, you really can. I wouldn't say any school in particular, but when I think of different ones as far as recitation program in the spring, and that being a special time where we really invite parents, or even having things like there's a school that has a breakfast where they invite... And every year, where they invite the grandparents of the K through 2 children.
Yes.
And they come and the children recite, and the grandparents love it.
Yes.
And they think that their grandchildren are the most intelligent grandchildren in the world. And indeed they are. And, that is a beautiful thing. And so in that child's life, they had that ceremony. They had it in K1 and 2. And that was a special thing, and they'll always remember that. And then you think of other things that develop from ceremony, respect. When you have a ceremony, it's like learning manners. Why do we learn manners? Manners are really the golden rule. Treat others as you would like them to treat you, right? That's what manners are. They're putting that other person ahead of ourselves. When we have a ceremony, we are sort of doing that in that we are behaving a certain way. We know how we will behave. We are respecting those around us. We are doing this for them as much as for ourselves in creating that tradition and that ceremony. So, that's a great thing. So when I think of that breakfast, what goes on there, besides the relationship between the elderly and the young, which is very, very healthy, right? But also respect, honoring something, remembering a tradition, so important. And that's done just from a little breakfast every single year.
That everybody looks forward to.
That everybody looks forward to.
Yes.
And that's encouraging. I think I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if Kathy was my advisor and I wanted to start a school, the Christmas cantata seems like a really big thing to bite off and chew. But a breakfast where I invite people's families and say, we're going to be excited. We're going to make this amazing. And everybody looks forward to it every year. So you can start with things that really are doable for you.
That's exactly.
And
your
people love it.
Yes, that's a good point, Jessica, because that is true. But a recitation day, everybody can do also.
That's right.
Yes, they can.
All they're reciting is the things they've learned in their classrooms through the curriculum all year.
That's right.
And so it's really just a sampling of what they've been doing in their classroom. So that's very doable. Right. The bagpiper and the drummer, I know.
It takes a little.
That's a lot.
Although I have a school in Fort Worth
that's doing it.
They were here last
when we did
teacher training, last conference when we did it. She hired a bagpiper this year at the beginning of the year and did the whole ceremony.
Good.
That's
well,
incredible.
Cheryl,
Isn't that
we had
amazing?
like 30 students, and she did, and Cheryl did it.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes hard to find a bagpiper.
I was going to say, I wonder if our bagpiper flew to Fort Worth.
No.
No, it's. I mean, that's the thing is you have to live in an area that would have, but you can do other things.
You can create your own, your own
can have
ceremonies
a
for your
formal
culture.
beginning ceremony with a charge to the students, to the teachers, to the parents.
Right. Yes.
And their responsibility in this whole thing. You know, it's a partnership between all of us. So that can be done without a bagpiper.
That's right. And we would say whether you're a homeschool parent doing this endeavor in your living room or someone at a brick and mortar school, we would say even in the busyness of the start of the year or the middle of the year, whenever it is, even in the busyness, this is worth prioritizing.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. In your context, in a way that you can, in a way that fits for you.
Yes. And it could be even, maybe you finish as a homeschooler, maybe you finish your year, your semester in December with like a particular music program at a church or something that you attend. That could be your last day of school. You don't have to find a choir to put your child in.
That's right.
But you can come up with those things that are going to be traditions that then your children will remember because they've done that. My kids were in a Latin choir for 10 years. And so they will never forget that. They will never forget that their last day of school every year at Christmas time was them performing. They didn't like it, but
Builds character.
But everybody was doing it. And so it was just a part of what they did it unquestioningly because everybody did it. It was part of the culture. That's the other thing is nobody fights, at the beginning, Cheryl's fighting a battle. Are we seriously going to come to a national Latin exam banquet on a school night? What are we doing? Nobody questions anything like that anymore because we did it for so long. It just became part of who we are.
Yeah.
And that's really what it has to do is just become part of who you are as a school.
Yeah, I think of that with startup schools, of which there are many. And that is probably one of the biggest things. When you're starting a school, start to think about what are our ceremonies going to be? What are our traditions going to be? Because it does give the the structure, the framework for your school. And so when you first walk into that, it's new. But then you become used to it, and then you expect it, and then it's just that tradition that is established. It helps to create that culture for your school. But it's so great to just see a startup school, first year, it's probably just going to be that Christmas program. And in the spring, they'll do recitation of what they've learned. But then as the years go by, they have other ceremonies they create, other traditions, and it's just understood. So we have the school here in Louisville, and we get to look at that and see that that's been done. And use that as a template.
But but it wasn't like this 20 years ago.
No.
She was I remember one of my memories of her at the afternoon of, we were prepping for the NLE banquet. The cake was there, setting out glasses and all. And I looked up and Cheryl was sweeping the stage because it was dusty and, it was a rented church. And she was just standing up there in her suit, sweeping the stage, trying to make it all just perfect, and that because it was that important to her. And Horatius at the Bridge, became a tradition. We didn't start with that tradition, but it became a tradition very quickly if you do it every year and stress the importance of it and the seriousness of memorizing something like that and pointing to Winston Churchill, and who memorized it and used it to get himself through difficult situations, and all of that stuff. You have to build it gradually. It just isn't. It's not going to be. We have a lot more traditions now than we did then, and that's okay. You build
you get them over time,
and they are. They can be unique. Yes, unique by school or by homeschool.
That's right. Well, this was a great discussion. I feel like I always come away learning something, but I think this was like uniquely inspiring because there are things that you can start out as a school or a homeschool, and then there are things you can weave in that become important to you. It's not it's not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us today, Kathy.
Oh, it was
Always glad to
great.
have
I
you.
feel like 3 women talking. It's a good thing.
Agreed. Yeah. Absolutely. And thank you for joining us too. We'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.